You would think that all of this came from just creativity, but they really come home, they go to motherland, they really pull pieces out just to build something for the viewer to really watch on TV. So it's kind of more relatable at that point, you know? What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets React, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. Super excited about this video, guys. If you're new to us and we're new to you, make sure you scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the post notification bell because we're on the road to 100K. And we cannot get there without you guys, all right? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hi, I'm Sam Williams, and I'm an architectural researcher. Today we're going to take a look at the architectural details of the Kingdom of Wakanda from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Let's get it. Should be interesting.
The first time Wakanda's location is hinted at is in an Easter egg in Iron Man 2, showing on a map in Eastern Africa. We get a glimpse of the kingdom at the end of Captain America: Civil War, but we got our first real look at Wakanda in the movie Black Panther. So Zaha is the capital of the Kingdom of Wakanda, also known as the Golden City. So right away I noticed that this is a vast, sprawling city with skyline that's a mix of contemporary and more traditional architectural styles. It's surrounded on all sides by a mountain range. There's a river flowing through it and a central tower that peeks out. The city does not seem to be based on a grid, and instead it seems to follow the contours of the natural features that form the city. So the city's setting within nature sort of reminds me of Nairobi in Kenya. So in recent years, Nairobi has experienced explosive growth, and the government has found it important to impose development restrictions so that development does not encroach upon the nature preserves. And here you see there's a very similar logic being employed where the city is very tightly contained, even allowing elements of nature to blend in without fully sprawling into the surrounding environment. So the skyline that we see here also reminds me a lot of Johannesburg, where there is sort of this central tower and the rest of the city is sort of unfocused and sprawling. A lot of the recent growth in Johannesburg is largely uncontrolled, which is why you're seeing a lot of the high-rises placed next to low-rises, and they're just trying to fit them wherever they can. And the fact that this is completely surrounded by mountains is a direct reference to the Kingdom of Lesotho, which is surrounded by the Maloti Mountains, which is what the director Ryan Coogler said inspired this setting. So I can see a lot of recognizable Western styles, and also the production designer mentioned that Zaha Hadid inspired quite a bit of the building design. Something that's completely evident in this photo is how advanced and futuristic the city looks. Marvel really loves the solar punk aesthetic. The idea behind solar punk is what happens if we solve all the world's problems. There's no hunger, there's no war, and there's no threat from global catastrophe or climate change or anything like that.
But not by magic, by technology.
Obviously, but I've never seen it this efficient.
Here is very much a really clear example of how nature and the city can blend together after we solve a lot of the other ecological issues that we may experience.
Okay, well, where is it? He done said Lesotho. He done said Nairobi. What's the other one he said? Johannesburg?
Yeah. It sounds like there's a blend of everything going on right here.
Okay.
A big blend.
During industrialization. Something else I find pretty notable about this image is that despite the sprawling nature of the city, it seems like there is no massive highway, there's no car-oriented infrastructure. It all seems to be just tied directly into nature, and it just sort of indicates that this is a very walkable place and very tied together by public transportation of some sort. So while the Golden City is very impressive from the sky, you can also see on the ground level how there's the mix of uses and how the people live. Next up is the Citadel of Zaha. So right away I noticed that this entire complex sort of hugs this waterfront and it's blending the city with nature. Here we also have these terrace steps that surround the building. Surrounding the base of the building, you see some of these sort of modular structures, and they're very reminiscent of some of the informal settlements that we see throughout Africa, where the buildings are sort of added on as the needed. We can also see similarities to the Great Mosques of Djinné and Djingueber, which were commissioned around the 13th century by King Musa, who is considered to be one of the wealthiest people to ever live. Some of these similarities include sort of these towering sources with these bundles of sticks called torons, which is used to help maintain the building and also provides reinforcement similar to concrete rebar, and they provide a nice decorative aspect. We have the sky bridge, which are flanked by these two towers, which reminds me of the minarets that you see on the Great Mosque, where they sort of jut out in a similarly height scale. So I'm not quite clear on what material this is built with.
It's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium.
But further back in here, you can see that this more directly resembles the mosque and material used in the construction. The Great Mosque was constructed using these.
I'm talking about the exact same architect. Like,
yeah,
really.
It's like, child, he's seeing stuff with a different eye.
Yeah, like he's really invested. You see, it's like, you would think that all of this came from just creativity, but they really come home, they go to motherland, they really pull pieces out just to build something for the viewer to really watch on TV. So it's kind of more relatable at that point, you know?
Yeah, so that the people can have something to remember, like, hey, that's that, you know, and make it relatable.
Which are earthen bricks that are compacted together and then covered with a plaster. So it's clear that they're referencing the mosque here because those were the most important structures built in those societies. And similarly, the citadel is the most important structure in the Kingdom of Wakanda. Next, let's take a closer look at one of the smaller scale buildings seen in the film. Right away, I noticed this building here is a clear example where it's sort of less contemporary than the surrounding buildings. It has a thatched roof and it has sort of this more golden material and pattern that's alluding to some of the cultural examples throughout Africa. This is very clearly a reference to some of the Tata castles that we see in Western Africa. They have very similar proportions to some of the castles that we see in Scotland from the 16th century, where there are several sort of towers that are flanking this central volume and entryway. The main structure is clearly made of regolith, similar to the mosque that we see earlier. However, those structures are a bit further north than where these are. And so as you move further south throughout Africa, you're starting to see the introduction of the thatch roof. The turrets that we see at the castle examples are also taken and separated into their own residences. And these are Tata standalone structures. Elsewhere in the film, we see these Tata standalone structures, which are less adorned than the example that we saw in this image. This is still located in the city, and is very much in contrast to the other example that we see, which is in a more rural context and much more low tech. What I like about this shot is that it clearly shows a very recognizable building form in the African vernacular. This sort of indicates the diversity of cultures that are represented in Wakanda, and also the power that exists in the main capital. You can see this idea of social cohesion and representation in the layout of the city. Right away, you can see that the city has a circular layout as opposed to a grid, and it follows this river valley and these other secondary valleys that stem out from the surrounding mountain range. In the middle, you see this moat, and there are several circular buildings that are evenly spaced surrounding the citadel, and this reminds me quite a bit of the Zulu enclosures. At the scale of the community, these Zulu enclosures are really these single room residences that are surrounding a larger courtyard, and this is largely so that each member of the family gets their own private space, with some expectation of participating within a larger community. Seeing this singular civic space at the center of the city definitely reminds me of the Zulu compounds and their enclosures. You can see that similarly in Wakanda that there are several tribes that make up the kingdom, but they're somewhat autonomous, but they are still expected to participate in these more communal decision-making.
Tell me how to best protect Wakanda. You'll need to surround yourself with people you trust.
The production designer Hannah Beechler traveled all around Africa to get an idea of how various communities were laid out. And so this is how you get this example of this circular formation with this massive importance of the...
Hey, but he's taking a deep dive.
Man, I bet y'all didn't even think twice about half of this stuff, because he got the whole layout, the whole connection. Like, he's mapping it out too clean right now.
Yeah, because I think what we were focused on was the acting, the setting, not that detailed, the costumes, you know, the different things they were saying.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm like, where's he getting these pictures? But then I remember like they had like the zoom out, then zoom in shots. So
yeah, this is amazing. This is like, you know, giving Africa their flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, putting this on a film like this with such a powerful representation of what you know, Wakanda did. So
yes, especially when we had the scene. What the producer did with this movie was amazing, because like he really touched on everything.
He did, yeah.
Like from the relationships with the lost child or the forgotten child, well, whatever he called them, about, you know,
coming back home.
The relationships between Africans and African Americans. Africans and African Americans. You know, that relationship. They went to all over Africa just to see different things, modern and you know, the olden days. I can't think. You know, y'all know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Nah, I get you 100%. Yeah, it's a lot going on. It's relatable.
In the center. Now let's look at a building outside of the city center. Right away, what stands out to me are these intricate patterns that are carved into the structure. It also seems to just emerge from the mountain and is made of the mountain, with the base being a bit wider, more pyramidal, and also being surrounded by waterfalls, and this verticality seems to be emphasized here. These intricate patterns very much remind me of the Kano house, which could be found in Nigeria. What's fun about this is that the Kano house really allowed each individual family to express their unique identity, and it's sort of their own version of the coat of arms that you could find throughout other
know, it's like how he's connecting all of these pieces. I feel like that's how it is with a lot of movies today. Yeah. There's always some truth in it. You know what I'm saying? And they're getting it from somewhere.
Right.
So you can never just look at something and be like, wow, that person was just that creative alone. No, they got that from somewhere.
Right.
100%.
Inspired.
Very inspired.
The world. So the Kano houses look very different than some of the other styles that we've seen. And this is because these are usually built by upper and middle class families. Those with more means can also have the ability to individually express their wealth using these patterns. So the patterns that we see here in the Kano houses are also evident in the costume designs from Ruth Carter. And really, similarly to the Kano houses, each of the costumes are meant to represent a specific tribe and a very unique identity. So this is one of those styles that has been built historically throughout Nigeria, but you're starting to see these appear again in the upper middle classes to harken back to the roots of the area. Those are just some of the architectural details that I noticed, which makes Wakanda so unique and interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Child, that was a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot. That helped me out a lot now because I'm like, yo, if I go back and watch it, I'm not going to look at it as just Wakanda.
Right, I'm going to be like, hold up, pause.
That's a little African. Yeah, I see African there, everywhere.
We saw that on this video.
Yeah, real
We
talk.
talked about this, yeah.
Yeah, it was easy at first, like, whenever they was all having their different, like, garments and outfits, you know what I'm saying, from each tribe. That made sense. But then when you go into the architect version of it, oh, man.
Yeah. Everything just woven together.
Yes.
But we like this video. We hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way.
Yes.
As well as our join feature to become a VIP member of the channel.
Check it out.
Check out our description box to send in your reaction requests. We'll see you soon.
Peace.